Asus Zenfone 11 Ultra Camera Review. Hello my dear friends, how are you? I hope you are well and in good health. Today I have a new and important video with you, which is a review of the Asus Zenfone 11 Ultra phone camera. I hope you like it, but before you watch the video, subscribe to the channel to receive everything new and useful. Now let's continue the explanation. At first glance, the Zenfone 11 Ultra borrows most of its camera settings from the ROG Phone 8 line. Overall, you get a 50MP main camera with a gimbal OIS setup, a 32MP 3x telephoto camera with OIS, and a 13MP ultra-wide camera with focus fixed. The ultra-wide camera has a free-form lens to reduce edge distortion. The same goes for the 32MP RGBW selfie. Both lack autofocus. The ROG camera app's user interface is a bit of a custom affair. We can say that it is surprisingly feature-rich without being messy. The camera app does a fair amount of automatic scene detection. This is indicated by a small scene icon in the top left corner and the night mode UI, which automatically pops up in the bottom right corner when the camera decides it's dark enough. Tapping the same night mode icon presents two exposure duration options. The numbers themselves are dynamic and also depend on the ambient light conditions. Pro mode is surprisingly versatile. You get a level meter in the middle of the frame and a histogram in the bottom left corner. You get white balance, exposure compensation, ISO, shutter speed, and a manual focus slider with focus peaking. There is also a professional video capture mode. It offers the same set of controls on the right side as the Pro Photo mode and a nifty smooth zoom feature. You can just tap on an area in the frame and zoom in on the phone gradually. The ROG camera app also enables seamless switching between the main and ultra-wide cameras while shooting. Image quality in daylight. Main camera. The main camera on the Zenfone 11 Ultra captures still images at a resolution of around 12.5 MP due to pixel binning. These images are generally solid, but nothing to call home about. Details are good, but could also be better. The same applies to dynamic range and contrast. The colors are beautiful and natural. The sharpening process is a bit aggressive, leaving behind a lot of artifacts, resulting in a slightly harsh and overdone look. It's not really noticeable unless you peep the pixels. Faces appear well but are also a bit overprocessed, with sharp artifacts often replacing actual facial features and skin texture. However, these are perfectly serviceable shots, especially with good lighting. Portrait shots aren't particularly impressive by any means either. It's certainly serviceable, too, but target detection and separation is far from perfect, especially against a busy background. The background blur quality is fine. You may notice that some of our sample portrait shots have been zoomed in, perhaps somewhat counterintuitively or completely intuitively, depending on how you look at things. The Zenfone 11 Ultra takes twice zoomed photos with its main camera. There's also no option to take selfies using the 3x telephoto lens. You can force the main camera to shoot at full 50MP resolution. However, this does not result in more detail or sharper shots, only larger sizes. Close-up camera. The 32MP telephoto camera on the Zenfone 11 Ultra works at 3x zoom and above in daylight conditions and captures still images at around 8MP. The phone has a 2x camera toggle button, which captures zoomed and cropped shots using the main camera. They're very good, but as expected, they're not as clean and detailed as 3x shots from a dedicated telephoto lens. Details are plentiful, colors look good and match well with the main camera. There is some noise and sharpening artifacts, but nothing serious. Contrast and dynamic range could be better too. The camera interface on the Zenfone 11 Ultra features quick switching of 10x and 30x zoom levels, with every other digital zoom level in between available on a slider as well. We have to say that even at 30x, the telephoto camera produces surprisingly clean and usable images when there's enough light. This is thanks to what Asus calls its hyper clarity engine, which uses image reconstruction and deep learning models and increases zoom by 10x. Here are some 10x and 30x samples. Ultra-wide camera. The 13MP ultra-wide camera is decent enough but mostly unimpressive in practice. Detail, contrast and dynamic range are good for the Ultra, although the latter could be better. The ultra-wide camera tends to have a lower exposure on average than the other two cameras, resulting in darker shots and colors. These colors are a little more saturated than those from the main camera, but they're not a bad match overall. Selfie camera: the Zenfone 11 Ultra's 8MP selfies look pretty decent. Again, it's not amazing by any means, but it's definitely okay. Details are mostly there, skin tones appear natural, and some texture appears. Fixed focus for the selfie camera isn't much of an issue as the focal plane is nice and deep and quite forgiving with different grips. Camera quality in low light: the main camera on the Zenfone 11 Ultra has strong low light performance. There is a lot of detail in the frame and a very good amount of processing. Noise is practically absent, which is very impressive. Colors look great and the dynamic range is very wide. The shadows are very well developed, as are the highlights. Light sources are well located. Overall, we don't have any obvious complaints to point out. The Zenfone 11 Ultra applies some automatic processing to night mode through the regular photo mode. Furthermore, there is also a dedicated night mode that offers a choice between long and short exposure time. Choosing a longer exposure time means you sometimes have to wait up to 7 seconds for the photo to be taken, but the results are better. The benefits are marginal, so the extra time you spend taking each photo probably isn't worth it. It's a more processed look overall. The telephoto camera is also very efficient in low light conditions. Details are there. Colors are accurate and match well with the main camera. There is practically no noise. The ultra-wide camera is modest but serviceable in low light. There is a fair amount of detail and noise is very low. Colors are a little too saturated for our taste. Shadows and highlights are handled well, as are light sources. In case you're wondering, we tried the long exposure time night mode on both the ultra-wide and telephoto camera, and we don't think the results are any better than just shooting in regular photo mode. We found that night mode was absolutely worse for selfies than the regular photo mode. The Zenfone 11 Ultra's low light selfies generally look good, perhaps a bit harshly processed, but with plenty of detail and mostly natural skin tones. Video capture quality: the Zenfone 11 Ultra can capture video at up to 8K resolution at 24 fps on its main camera. The ultra-wide is limited to 4K at 30 fps, while the telephoto camera can do 1080p at 60, and the selfie can do 1080p at 30. By default, videos are saved in a standard AVC/H.264 video stream at around 50 Mbps at 4K resolution and a 48 kHz AAC stereo audio stream within an MP4 container. Alternatively, you can also capture video in HEVC/H.265 format to save some space. The main camera takes excellent videos overall. The colors look good and are mostly natural. The greens and reds are a little more saturated but not overdone. Contrast is good, and there is practically no noise. You get a lot of fine details at 4K and even more at 8K. However, it's not enough to justify living with 24 fps or larger file sizes in our book. 8K capture on smartphones is still generally a gimmick. It's there if you really need it. The ultra-wide camera works quite well with 4K videos. The details are plentiful, especially for the devices at hand. Contrast and dynamic range are decent, and there is very little frame noise. Colors appear slightly less saturated than those on the main camera, which is quite good in its own right. In terms of stabilization, the main camera has a 6-axis gimbal setting, and in keeping with Asus tradition, the Zenfone 11 Ultra offers 2 levels of video stabilization. One is called adaptive, and as the name suggests, it dynamically blends into the frame and increases or decreases the eyes level depending on the phone's movement. It does a great job overall and can be used on every camera on the phone without lowering the resolution. Beyond that, there's Super Hyper Steady, which takes its shots from the main camera and has a resolution of 1080p. It's meant to compensate for really aggressive movement for things like sports, and it's been further improved this year. You'll probably want to keep using adaptive most of the time. Despite the 1080p limit, video from the telephoto camera looks relatively good. Details are good given the resolution, and colors often appear to match well with the main camera. We absolutely love the 1080p shots from the selfie camera. 2. Skin tones and textures look very good, and detail is definitely enough to be usable. The main camera takes good low light videos. Noise is a small issue, but other than that, detail and colors are on point. Unfortunately, we can't quite say the same for close-up videos, which are too dark to use. The same applies to ultra-wide videos. At the end of the video, I hope you liked it, and see you in a new video.